You are listening to Business Talk podcast. I am your host Deepak. We are honored to welcome Dr. Aiyesha Dey, James R. Williston Professor of Business Administration at Harvard Business School, as our esteemed guest on today's podcast episode. Professor Aiyesha Dey is a faculty member in the Accounting and Management Unit at Harvard Business School, where she has been teaching since 2017. She began her academic career at the Booth School of Business, University of Chicago, and later joined the Carlson School of Management at the University of Minnesota. In 2016-17, she served as a visiting scholar at the US Securities and Exchange Commission's Division of Economic and Risk Analysis, contributing to key research and policy initiatives. Professor Dey's research lies at the intersection of corporate governance, behavioral finance, and financial reporting. Her work explores how executive behavior and personal characteristics shape corporate conduct and governance outcomes. She serves as an associate editor for management science and is on the editorial boards of the Accounting Review and Review of Accounting Studies. Dr. Aiyesha holds a PhD in accounting from the Kellogg School of Management, Northwestern University. Earlier, she earned an MBA with a focus on accounting and finance, and a bachelor's degree with honors in mathematics, for which she received the prestigious National Scholar Award from the Government of India. At Harvard, she teaches both MBA and executive education programs. Her MBA courses have included financial reporting and control, leadership and corporate accountability, and the anatomy of fraud. In executive education, she contributes to programs such as Women on Boards, Audit Committees, Senior Executive Leadership Program India, Leading Global Businesses, and the General Management Program. In this episode, Professor Aiyesha Dey shares valuable insights from her research focus from boards to behavior, rethinking corporate governance through the executive lens, where she explores how the personal characteristics and behavior patterns of top executives influence corporate conduct, offering a fresh perspective on governance beyond traditional board structures. So without further delay, let's welcome Dr. Aiyesha Dey to the podcast. Dr. Aiyesha, thank you for graciously accepting our invitation. It's an honor and privilege to have you with us today.
Well, thank you, Deepak, for having me. It's an honor for me and really a privilege to be able to share some of the things I've discovered through my research over the years. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. Professor Dey, your work shifts the focus of corporate governance from structural mechanism to executive behavior. What initially led you to explore this intersection between governance and individual psychology?
So, early in my research, I saw that no matter how many stringent rules, policies you institute on firms, fraud seems to be recurring constantly. For example, we had the massive corporate scandals in 2000, we had regulations, more governance, but we went forward, then there were more frauds, and then you had the Dodd-Frank Act, but then there was still more fraud. So it raised a question in me that, well, either all of these regulations and rules are not enough, or there's a critical piece we are missing, which is required in addition to structure and policies. And, simultaneously, I started reading about the leaders and the executives in the fraud firms, and you look at their lifestyles and you wonder, maybe I should dig deeper into the people who lead the firms. Maybe that is the critical piece we are missing. And that theme, that thought has inspired me even today to sort of look into the people dimension in addition to the structures and the rules and the policies to really understand what true good corporate governance should look like.
Dr. Dey, in traditional governance framework, boards, audits, and policies are central. But your research suggests that the personalities of top executives may matter more. Could you elaborate on why traits like integrity and trustworthiness are critical?
Of course. So, I want to start by saying I don't think boards, audits, rules, structures are unimportant. They're absolutely necessary. However, if you don't have integrity, trustworthiness, someone who does not have the right intent can outmaneuver those rules and policies. They will find clever ways to go around them. So while rules and policies are important, you have to remember good governance ultimately depends on good judgment, right? And good judgment is shaped by character. Like a CEO who makes decisions will shape the culture, the strategy, the risk taking, all of that within the firm. And someone who doesn't have the right integrity will find ways to benefit himself or herself at the cost of other stakeholders in the firm. So you need systems, but you need character to go together to have someone who will make the right decisions for all stakeholders.
Very insightful. Dr. Day, you have empirically linked personal misconduct and even traits like overconfidence or narcissism in CEOs to corporate outcomes. How can these psychological dimensions be systematically measured or detected?
So I actually didn't study narcissism and overconfidence, but others have. So there are a group of behavioral researchers who have looked at these dimensions. I have studied, as you mentioned, misconduct, self-restraint, materialism. But these are aspects of one's personality or trait. So they're very hard to measure because you don't it's not a tangible thing always. But we are making progress. You can look at subtle cues, you can look at lifestyles. For example, one thing I can talk about my own research a little more deeply, but I can also tell you what others have done. So for example, one thing we do is look at criminal records in the past life of an executive. Even something small as speeding tickets, which are higher than average, is telling me it's a symptom of someone's innate character or personality of breaking the law. So you think if you're consistently breaking these speed limits or parking ticket violations, etc., more than average, because everyone has a little bit, but more than average, it means that you think those rules don't apply to you or you don't have self-restraint, right? So these symptoms of behavior are telling you something about innate personality. We also look at lifestyles like extravagant living. Now, we compared, for example, lifestyle across CEOs with the same wealth. So they all had the same amount of money and everything. Among that group, who is living way above the average for this category of wealth level individual, right? Multiple vacation homes, extravagant yachts, all of this. Now, is there noise in the measure? No, of course there is, but on average, it systematically mentions a dimension of status, extravagance. I will do whatever it takes to get material stuff over other emotional and well-being type of things, right? People who have studied narcissism look at cues like if you look at annual reports, does the CEO has himself in the center with a big picture? In conference calls, do they talk about I instead of a we? It's always me. So, there are subtle clues like that give you hints as to a person's, or how should I say, traits or innate qualities. But, of course, are they perfect? No, there are so many dimensions to personality. And even though one aspect reflects maybe materialistic living, there are other aspects you should consider. Like they may also give back a lot to charity, right? And you have to take the two together. So we're making progress, but it's not perfect. But there are subtle clues in lifestyle and speaking, all those kind of.
Yeah. Professor, can you share an example where governance failed not due to weak structures, but because of the behavioral patterns of executives? And what lessons can be drawn from such cases?
There are so many, like take the case of classic like Enron or even Theranos. Enron, for example, had a fantastic board. The chair of the audit committee was a accounting faculty at Stanford, right? Theranos had like investors, independent board of directors, like it was just fantastic, like with all kinds of the normal top quality audit firms. So if you think about the checks and balances we consider as good governance, they were all present. But the companies didn't fail because governance in the traditional sense was weak, but it failed because of the behavioral dynamics of the leader, right? Like in Theranos's case, she had so much charisma that she inspired a little bit of fear. There was no ethics. Anyone who challenged was fired. She lied. There was deception. So it was totally the ethical issues that led to the failure of the company, not the structural dimensions of the corporate governance. And there are, if you look at any big scandal, Tyco, WorldCom, and just pick a big company that failed and look at their governance, you'll often see that they had the traditional checks and balances in place. But it's the people's, the integrity, the trust, the ethics that's what led to the downfall.
Professor Day, how should board rethink their selection and evaluation criteria for CEOs and senior leaders in light of behavioral risk and character attributes?
I think that boards, if I were on a board, for example, I would go beyond simply credentials and track record. Those are very important. Of course, you want to see what a person has done, what their experience is. So I am not at all diminishing the importance of those things. However, I would also ask other questions. For example, how does this person respond to bad news? How do they treat people around them? How do they treat people with less power? How do they create a culture? Like if I did reference checks, I would try to check for patterns. Are they respectful? Very important. Do they have humility? These are qualities. A leader is a servant to multiple stakeholders who are depending on them to lead, right? So I think boards need to look for these softer, I'm saying soft, but I think these should become a critical performance. Character is a KPI. It's not just a soft issue on the side. So I think boards need to ask questions like that particularly when they select the leader, in addition to track record and experience and skill sets, etc.
Dr. Day, your findings seem to challenge the idea of the rational agent in the classic economic theory. How has behavioral economics informed your research, and how do you see it shaping the future of governance?
So, I mean, if you take the traditional behavior, let's stick with the traditional behavior of what is rational. I think one of the things that behavioral economics is teaching us is that people are not always rational in the traditional sense, right? We have our own characteristics. We're emotional, we are biased, we are overconfident, we are narcissistic, we are loss averse. So all of these things inherently shape our decisions, right? And so unless we take this characteristic into account when we think about who should be our leader, etc., its governance or good leadership won't be complete. So one of the assumptions in traditional accounting, finance for decades had been, you take people, you give them a set of incentives, and they will all behave the same in the company. They will all take the same decision. So there was ignoring the personal characteristics of the people because you were thinking that incentives could neutralize individual traits. But what my research and those of other people studying this, our collective work has shown that individual dimensions do not get neutralized by incentives, etc. So people, sometimes we're not rational, right? Two different people behave differently to the same stimuli or incentives. So I think in the future of governance, this individual aspect or this human dimension needs to be considered if you really want a holistic, good corporate governance system.
In an increasingly ESG-focused corporate environment, how do executive values and personal ethics influence a firm's commitment to social responsibility and long-term value creation?
Tremendously. I think ESG is not just a strategy. I think it's a reflection of a leader, what a leader believes in and his or her value system. Because what is the boundary of your firm? If you're just thinking about, oh, I need to make money for my investors, I just need to increase share price, then you will follow one strategy, right? But if you want to be inclusive, if you think, oh, you know what, I not just need to protect my investors, I have customers, I have employees, what about the society? If that is part of your value system, the ethical boundary, the legal boundary, the economic boundary, a leader who considers all of that will incorporate that into a strategy. That, like, the ESG then becomes part of their decision making. On the other hand, if you just want to check the box, you're going to just do things that is more like window dressing, but not in the true spirit of what that theme encompasses. So I think it's really comes from within what a leader's value system and beliefs are. Then ESG just becomes part of their entire decision framework.
Professor, I would like to conclude with one last question. If you could rewrite one core principle of corporate governance based on your research, what would it be and why?
Perhaps I would rewrite or modify the concept of independence in governance to integrity. You could have a board of directors who are structurally independent, which could mean I have no family ties, I have no business ties, and so I'm independent, so I get to sit on the board. However, if you don't have the integrity, the courage, the right moral independence and judgment to ask the right questions, even in the presence of a powerful CEO, to hold up the mirror and say, I don't think this is right. Are we considering the various stakeholders? Why is this a good decision? If you don't have the courage, the integrity to ask the right questions, you're not going to be an effective governance agent. You're not going to be effective. So just independence doesn't lead to good governance. So integrity, I think, is crucial.
Thank you, Professor Aiyesha Dey, for that powerful reflection. Reimagining corporate governance through the lens of executive behavior and character reminds us of that policies alone can't ensure ethical leadership. It's the people behind them who truly matter. Your work challenges us to move beyond checklist and compliance and instead ask deeper questions about integrity, trust, and decision making at the top. It's been a thought-provoking conversation, and we are grateful for the insights you have shared today. Thank you once again for generously sharing your time and insight with us on our platform. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Deepak. I wish you and everyone listening the very best.
Thank you.
Thank you.